Welcome to Deal Nation. On the show today, we're joined by Trevor Probandt, the founder of Go West Lands and host of the popular REI podcast, The Dirt Road to Wealth. Trevor, how are you?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to have you on the show today. I've talked to lots of investors who came from a business background and decided to be entrepreneurs or just really had that entrepreneur bug. But you're someone who was kind of born with your feet in the dirt. Your family is, as I understand it, fifth generation ranchers out in Texas. So I'm really excited to hear about kind of the land business from the perspective of somebody who really has land in their blood.
Yeah. We're I guess fifth or sixth generation ranchers. We'll be coming up on 115 years here pretty quick. That we've kind of really gotten big into that. My family on my dad's side, that's all the ranching side. Yeah, we've been out in Tom Green County and Sterling County, which is like West Texas, since the early 1900s, and we've really just by doing that, we kind of have gotten into the understanding that, we've had a decoupling of value of land from a agricultural price point, which would be a very flat, especially in the state of Texas, a very flat deal that you wouldn't hardly have any kind of increase over time. What we've had is we've had a big decoupling of that, and that started in the 90s, but even in the 80s, 90s, things like this. Ranching land, farmland, row crop stuff, ranching land, it only right now it really trades on the recreational side, right?
Okay.
Hunting, fishing, things like this. And what the real change that we're seeing when it comes to all this is just like everything else, the baby boomers are dying out. They own all the assets, right? Whether that's, apartment complexes, commercial buildings, whatever that is. And the thing is when it comes to land, it doesn't cash flow, right? You're not making cash flow off that like you have, with a commercial building or apartment complex or things like this. And so what you've had is we had a full generation or two generations that literally left the ranch or the family farm because you couldn't make enough money as a primary producer of livestock, especially, and then also crops, and raise more than one family on one piece of dirt, right? And so everyone had to go to town. They all had to move to the city to get a job. Well, now they've made a bunch of that money, and now they want to go buy back and raise their kids on a piece of dirt, right? Because they loved it, or you know what I mean, or they love going to the ranch, the grandkids, and now they're coming of age and things like this. And so we are seeing, especially after COVID, we saw this huge desire to get space, right? We saw this desire to get away, and after we had to be on top of each other and we had to all this stuff for so long. And Texas was different compared to other parts of the country, but there's still this desire. And I don't know about you, Michael, but if you could afford 100 acres to raise your family on, or a condo, which one would you pick? Right? Like,
yeah, I mean, like if equal value, I'm taking the 100 acres, but I look at it, I'm like, is there a hybrid? Because I hear 100 acres and I go, man, that is a lot to manage.
Dude, that's what's interesting too, because and this is a little bit of a rabbit hole, but like, it's interesting that you say that, because what I make now is I'll buy 100 acres and I turn them into 5 or 10 acre tracts, right?
Sure.
In the state of Texas, 10 acres is what we call non-plat required, and we can keep an ag exemption. An agriculture exemption on that keeps the taxes real low, because in the state of Texas, property taxes will eat you alive, right?
Sure.
It's super expensive, things like that. And so by keeping 10 acres, you can, you got a house, you got your 1 acre building envelope on it, and you can maintain that. And then the rest of the deal, you got your horses or your cows or your chickens and whatever the heck that is, right? Everyone wants to be their little, it's funny, we all at one time, or maybe not all of us, but the vast majority of this country were homesteaders, right? And now everybody wants to be a homesteader again, right? With their sourdough bread and their chickens and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. Like they've done some, like, I don't know, like sociology experiments, basically. They're not experiments, but like research. And a lot of it shows that when people hit a certain level of wealth, they kind of want to circle back to where they came from in the first place. They want a little piece of land. They're going camping. They want to kind of strip away the luxuries that the money has allowed them, and kind of put their feet in the dirt again, or put their feet in the grass, whatever it may be.
And especially if, as you know, you're hitting, if you're raising kids, or and things like this, like you just the we it's an interesting thing with, I'm 42, but the millennial generation and things like this, like you're like, and even some of the older folks are just like, I think we all realized, and we've all had grandparents or parents die and things like this, and all like that generation, the baby boomer generation, it was all about getting wealth, building, owning stuff, holding it long term, right? Doing everything they can. And then, some of them pass on, and then you're like, what are we going to do with grandma's stuff, right? And I think this whole generation has been like, you know what? It's not about the stuff. It's not about the things or whatever. It's, obviously everyone loves going and experiences now, right? That's where the football and basketball and baseball and, the contracts are through the roof, because we all want to pay for experiences. The funny thing is sometimes that experience is feeding your chickens and having iced tea with your loved one on the porch of a place that's got some acreage to it. So what I do in a nutshell is I make large unaffordable tracts, smaller affordable tracts. That's what I do.
Yeah, no, I love that. So I'm curious, like kind of going back to the beginning, because I know you guys have been, in the big land business for generations.
Yes, sir.
And to me, I look at that and it hits my kind of lazy vibe, and I just go, man, that is a lot of work to be a rancher. That's a lot of like hands-on, sunrise to sunset kind of commitment. So, what point were you able to make a pivot? Were you able to say, like, look, like we're gonna keep this in the family, but I also have some really great ideas about how other people can utilize large tracts of land. Like, how did you make that?
Well, okay, so going back to 1991, that's where my dad, uncle, and granddad really started, when it came to what we call recreational subdivides, right? So we would buy 2,000 acres and cut them into 200-acre tracts, right? And so those are usually going to go, especially in the state of Texas, those are usually going to go to deer hunters, right? That's a big thing out in this neck of the woods that everyone wants to do. And they might not be able to afford $2 million property, but they can afford a $400,000 property, right? And 200 acres is big enough to hunt on. They can recreate on. They can do whatever they want to, but it's not so big that every time they show up, they've got to do chores for 3 days for them to actually be able to go enjoy stuff, right? There's always something sick. There's always something in the wrong fence. There's always something wrong that busted a water trough one way or other. There's always a sick horse. That is the game, right? When you are a rancher. Yeah. And it's a full-time deal. And what made me kind of think about this is actually my dad, and this is in 2016 or 17. And I had actually, because you couldn't make a living. My family couldn't make a living on just ranching, right? And we got 4,800 acres. It doesn't make enough sense, right? Wow. So I was working in the oil field, and then what I was doing is I was putting my money in with my dad and uncle and doing these projects, one a year, so like that. And I was like, hey, how can we really push this, right? And my dad, they never raised money outside. They'd never done anything like that, right? They'd always just used their own money and gone from there. I was like, well, I think there's an opportunity for us to raise capital and to bring new folks in and to share the wealth on it and be able to do more deals. And so that's where we really kicked off with some other land investors that I got to know in the DFW market and things like this. There's still some of my best friends I do a bunch of work with now. We started putting more money together, 50 grand here, 100 grand there, things like this. And we started really speeding all that up. And so we've done probably 11,000 acres since 2021. So that's just, that's kind of where we're at. All right, now let's talk about the bad side, right? That what we're talking about right now is what we would consider rural recreational tracts, right? 10 plus acres, things like that. The good thing with those is good people easy to sell usually, things like this. The bad thing with that, right? If you're just going out in my neck of the woods and buying 100 acres, 120 acres, or whatever it is to go hunting, because I live further out from large metro areas. The thing is whenever interest rates go up, that's the first thing that people don't want to buy. Right?
Yeah.
A $500,000, luxury place that they could, that they can go drive to and do whatever. Whenever the interest rates go up, that's the very first place that gets hit. Okay. And so because of that, and we've had to get creative with some stuff, but we're also sitting on a bunch of inventory right now, like a lot of people are. And here's the bad thing about land, right? You're not renting it out, right? You can't, a lot of times you can't owner finance it, or if you use a bank or things like this, you can't owner finance it and wrap it. There's lots of, like, it's one of those deals. It's great in a flat market or in a rising market. In a down market, it's just tough when it comes to interest rate as far as cost for people on that side. So what I have done here in the last 2 years is now we do a lot of stuff that is higher density work. That's 1.5 to 2 acre lots, what we call acreage lot subdivisions, estate lots, where you've got paved roads, wire or buried, power, buried water lines, all that, building a what I call a boutique subdivision, right? So that may be anywhere from 12 to 35 lots that we're going to buy the dirt for $40,000 an acre. We're going to spend $24,000 to $30,000 an acre on the improvements, right? Overall cost of that. And then we're going to sell those lots for anywhere from $160,000 to $140,000 an acre, right?
Okay.
So that's kind of the game that we do, that I've kind of worked towards. And now we've got one that I've got just east of Dallas that we're working on. That would be a 400 lot subdivision that we would sell to another buyer or another builder. So
okay,
that's kind of where my progression has gone the last few years.
No, I love that. I mean, one, like your original side hustle was you were working in the oil business, and then you switched to real estate. So you essentially traded a side hustle that'll make you old real fast for a side hustle that'll keep you young.
Yeah,
which is great.
Believe me, you learned to work hard. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I already knew how to work hard from ranching and things like that, but yeah, you're in the oil field. It's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, and one of the things I hear a lot from going into kind of your exit strategy solutions or just exit strategies in general, you hear this a lot from more experienced investors, but also just people who actually kind of geek out and love the land business, is that when you're sitting on inventory, it's you're not always going to have a simple flip, right? You're not always going to be able to turn it in 90 days, get your profit, move on to the next. But if you can get creative with your exit strategies and owner financing and looking at that larger lot and saying, like, how can I divide this up into desirable little chunks of land or desirable smaller chunks of land, and then sell that? Who can I look at buyers if it's not individual buyers that are looking to pick it up? Where else can I find interested parties? Like, when you start to really get into that kind of, I think, fun problem solving side of the business, then you end up with really great results, right? And like you said, with land, like, no, you're not, it's not cash flowing when you're sitting on it.
Yep.
But it's also, in most cases, not losing value, right? You're still sitting on a valuable asset.
Yes.
It's just a question of time for when you're going to make a profit off of that, right?
Yep, for sure. And that's the whole point, right? And it just depends. Like, a lot of times we'll use bank leverage, where we're making 120 to 150% rate of return, but we've also got to pay that yearly principal and interest payment too, right? And so that's where you're like, well, that's the good and the bad with that. And so, yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to everything that you do, right? I had flipped some houses. I had dealt with some stuff. I realize that I am not a house guy. I don't like house problems. I don't like the people that have house problems. I actually enjoy helping them, but for the most part, like, I fall in love with every piece of dirt I'm on. I don't care two craps about what your what to paint the entryway of a house to maximize the value for, like, I could care less. It makes no difference to me.
Yeah, I mean, there are no toilets, no tenants. That's always going to give you, I think, probably an easier run, right? And
100%.
no, I certainly get the value of kind of sitting on a portfolio of apartments or condos or whatever it may be. They're going to gain in equity, and as a long-term business approach, I get it. But I think it comes down to, I think you did a podcast, and I about this subject. And I love this subject. Is whether you're in this as a lifestyle business or you're in this as like a wealth building
Yep.
opportunity.
Yep. Yeah. And there's okay. This is true with every business that you get into, right? Like, there are people that could care less about the business. They just want it to print money for them, right? That's their whole, they could care less, right? Whether that's owning a online bakery, selling ski masks to Scandinavian, they could care less, right? They run the ads, they get good at this stuff. They learn how to, build their e-com, and then they do, on levels of everything else, and they could give two craps about the actual product, who it's helping, who it's not helping, one way or other. It's a volume game, right? It's buy it cheap from China, white label it, sell it to somebody else, right? Like, that's what they do. There's other people, in my opinion, that have the brands that you realize they are there on earth to do, right? Like, some of the brand, like all the ones, Nike and things like this, but like, even like, let's say Lululemon, or say, some of these deals that have come out in recent years, like, that's the difference when building the well, or their life is their business and their business is their life, right? There's not a work-life balance. There is a continuum, or a you work for is what you do. I don't know how to best say that one way or other, but like, I personally, this is what I love to do, and this is what I'll do until the day they kind of put me in the ground, right? Like, I don't care how much money I have. I may fish and hunt a lot more, but like, this is what I'm going to do. I tell people all the time, I'm going to be underwriting a deal and die, at my desk with a pen in my hand, right? But the cool thing is it's not like it's not like it's not like it's that hard on you physically. What we do is a middle game, and it takes work and things like this, but it's not like I'm digging coal in West Virginia, or working in the oil fields and, in Saudi or something like this, right? Like, you can do this game forever. And that's what I really thought. There's a lot of people that get into the land space. They could care less about the land. They just think it's a really good opportunity. And it is. It still is, in my opinion. But that's where I'm a lifer, and some people are a lifestyle people, and that doesn't even compute to me. And I consider myself lucky that I finally found that thing that I am that fired up about.
Yeah, and I know you talk about this, I on your website and on your show, but it has to be extremely helpful for you in your conversations with the landowners, because you are connected to the land, right? You aren't selling beanies or bakery items or whatever online.
Yep.
You're a land guy, right?
Yep.
So
yeah, no, I mean, and it helps a ton, especially because, I'm like, I know the buyer because the buyer is me, like, especially on the sales side, right? On the brokerage end that we've got, right? And so my whole goal is to be as vertically integrated into the land space as possible, right? And there's a lot of other wonderful companies that have done way in front of me, but that's where I want to build my niche over the long term, right? And so that's where I think being able to just to talk, like you said, to be able to talk about that thing, because this is a big deal. That's a big difference between a large or a big ticket item, right? That maybe 2, 3, 4,000, or 2, 3, 400,000 up to $10 million, right? No one randomly goes online and orders one of those, right? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't happen. Even if you're selling a $1,000 handbag that might be the greatest handbag ever, you're still not gonna. So no one's gonna call you and say, "What do you think about this handbag? What are the pros and cons of this handbag? How, you know what I mean? Like, what about the tax implications of this handbag? What about you know what I'm saying? Like when you are in that consultative sales business, right? Whenever that comes on there and you're literally in that to potentially change not the total lifestyle and outlook and even financial future of people, that's something that you've got to be able to, in my opinion, and there are lots of people that do way better than me that could give two craps about the land space, but in my opinion, I believe that is one of my biggest strengths because again, I speak the language and I'm, like I said, this is what I do. I'm a land guy. I'm a dirt guy. And so far in the last, 6, 7 years that have really been pushing this, it seems like it's helping.
Amazing. And like any land business, there's a lot of moving parts, right? And so you always want to focus on the things that you actually enjoy within that business. I agree. There's some people that are able to just set up straight up assembly lines that are just flipping land, and they're not touching it at all. It's
Nope.
Three, four people they're paying at a low price point that are running systems, and that's it, right? But if you do like a certain part of it, like you do like talking to the sellers, then you can, like with launch control, for instance, you can set up a marketing system and just not even set it up. You can just use launch leads, which is launch control's done for you service, and just say, look, handle my outbound marketing. Let me know when they're inbound and ready for a call. And you jump on the call and you take it from there. If you hate the seller conversations, but you're really good at setting up systems and you like the dispo side, you like talking to realtors, you like doing some of the marketing to get properties sold, thinking up exit strategies, that side of it, but you hate talking to sellers, and you can hire somebody from Texas that understands land, pay them a solid commission, teach them how to do those sales calls, and then walk away from that because you don't like that bit, so
and maybe that's part of what I do is because I am there's a million guys and gals in the land space that have really, and that's what's so cool about the land space is it usually seems like it's because it's not sexy, right? It seems like there's a lot of really good folks in it, right? Like it's no one's like I want to flip 30 pieces of land, right? Like no one grew up being like, oh, I want to flip 30 pieces of land. I think part of my outlook is because that's my strength. I'm a relationship guy. I'm 42. I didn't grow up with a an iPhone in my pocket. I'm not a huge tech guy, things like this. And so maybe that's part of it is that's within my strength is I'm like, dude, I can do just as many deals with like 5 phone calls to brokers that really know, like, and trust me that you can do on, building all your systems, having all your VAs, doing all this stuff. There are many roads to Rome, right?
Yeah.
There's many, many roads to Rome. I know what I like as far as and what fits my skill set and my strength on that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like talking about the land business in general, you say it's not sexy, but it is a really profitable business model when you get it right.
Yes.
And it's funny because I have these REI conversations all day long, right? Like I'm talking to you, I host a podcast. You and I both, I'll say the name of the podcast again. The Dirt Road to Wealth is your show. We'll talk about that in just a second.
Yeah.
But we have these kind of in-depth REI conversations all the time. We're in the REI business. So you start hearing things like, well, is the space getting oversaturated or too many people getting involved in it? And I understand that sentiment. But at the same time, I've had 100 conversations with friends and family that have no connection to REI. And I tell them, especially about the land flipping model, and you just see them go, huh, I could see that. That could work. Like nobody goes, what? I don't understand. Everybody goes, oh, I get that. I see how that would work. Right? Because it's a very simple acquire inventory for less than total value, sell it for close to total value, make profit. Like if you went through seventh grade econ, you understand it.
It's everything that everything that we do is based on land, whether that's food, raising our kids, water, whatever that is. Like everything, land is the basis of everything that we do. And so, when you say that, it kind of makes kind of sense because, you start talking to people about bad debt on their underwriting on an apartment complex, right? You're talking about capitalization rates and you're talking about this and then you're talking about value add and, you're coming here, here, and here. Now you get in a commercial deal and you're talking about double net, triple net, everything else, and people's eyes like glaze over. Now, whenever you talk about, hey, you find some dirt and, go to a place that you like going to, go look and see if there's a whole bunch of, or what's available in 5s, 10s, 20s, whatever it is, buy it for 50 cents on the dollar and then sell it for full value. Congratulations. There's your business model.
Yeah, exactly. And, that, although, and to be fair, it does require really good systems. It's not like you're going to send out, 10 text messages or 10 emails and get 2 deals. Like it's going to take more work and more systems than that. But it's, if you just think about the flat numbers, right? If say for every 100 solid discovery calls that you have with a landowner, even if you're only closing one of those, and you're talking about larger tracts, like you're talking about, let's say your average net on that is 50, 60 grand for every one of those 100 conversations. That's a hell of a business. Like most any business would take that as an ROI, right?
100%.
So
100%. Yeah. You're like, okay, now, and then you go, well, if I was going to do drop shipping or I was going to do whatever it is with Amazon, if you don't think that's not competitive, you're out of your gourd, right? Like,
well, that's why I brought that up, right? Because when I talk to family and friends and they're like, oh, like you can see it dawn on them that this is like a not often thought of business. Or if somebody comes to you and they're like, oh, I'm going to open up a cafe, you're going to think, oh, another one? Good luck with that, right? I'm going to open up a drop shipping company. Oh, another one? Good luck with that. A restaurant? Yeah, those fail at like a rate of 80%. Good luck with that, right? And they require, like, you go eat at a restaurant. Every time I eat at a restaurant that's really busy, I think I would never want to own this business. I like sitting in this chair. I wouldn't want to own this business. It's just too much. You know what I mean? Land business, like stripped down staff, much easier to manage. Just
and you don't even need staff, right? Like to get going.
Yeah.
Have you got launch control or however you decide to market? Like I am agnostic. I've sent over probably 500,000 pieces of mail, right? I don't do it anymore, but I've never really done the texting, but I've got some very good friends of mine that love texting, right? And have had great success with it. The cool thing is, actually, after doing this, we're gonna dive into some of this stuff because on the cool thing about it is you can do that. Like you can literally send, use a launch control or someone like this that you can go as a one-man band, right? Or one-woman band and get going and start making these conversations and start doing this. And as you understand your market, you understand what you can do. Like if it's just finding a deal, hey, I want to sell it one way or other. Let's say you got your real estate license or you go get your real estate license, right? You can list it on that. You can refer it out to someone else, right? You can get paid on that. You can wholesale it out to someone else, right? You can put it on the market and buy it and then sell it owner financing. There's a million different ways that you can monetize this. And you can literally do it just in the evenings, right? Work in your backyard, wherever that may be. And that may be, 50 miles or 10 miles or 100 miles, whatever part of the world you're in, or areas that you really like, right? And here's another key. And this is one I think, in my opinion, is the most important, is go to and work in the areas, one, that you either live in, or two, which is always the best answer because you can just know so much more about it, or two, go to an area that has a lot of sales, but that you personally like. And the reason I say that is because you need to love the area, know the area, and why someone wants to buy dirt there, right? Just like we got going to talk about, like I am my buyer. You need to know those areas that people want to be at, right? Say it's in, let's just say it's in Florida, right? Lehigh Acres or whatever that is. And you're like, I love this part of Florida. We used to go vacation there. I love this part of Florida. This is the reason why, one way or other. And so whenever you buy something and you sell it and you've marketed it all over Kingdom Come on the internet, you got somebody in Chicago calling you saying, hey, what's the deal with this? Why would anyone want to buy this piece of dirt in Florida? This is why, right? Me and my aunt and my mom used to go down there. We used to fish and do, or whatever the heck it is, right?
Yeah.
Have that story, because what is everything, right? Nothing, everything we are, especially I think even more so now, and it will only be more now with all the AI and everything else. People believe in stories. People want to live that story or that dream or that life, because that's the reason we do everything, right? Whether that is to build a better life for our children so they can have more opportunities than we did, right? Whether that is buying this piece of dirt that you can build a homestead on, that you can start at whatever, with your chickens and your kids and your iced tea on the porch, whatever. Everything that we do, whether that is working out, right? So in the future, our body looks better, or we can do more things. Like, it's this story that we all have, that we all there.
Yeah, I agree. But on the story front, there's actually, like, this kind of maybe devalues it a little bit, but there's a marketing term for this called, like, a factual appeal versus an emotional appeal, and kind of
Okay.
the importance of having both, right? So, like,
Yep.
if you watch a car commercial and it's like, 20% discount, blah blah blah, factual appeal. But the emotional appeal is the car, like, driving down the windy road, wind in the hair, giving you that perception of, like, what the experience is going to be like driving that car. And it's usually the combination of the two that gets it done. So in the
Yes.
land deal, when you're talking to a seller, like, the best operators are no bullshit with them, right? Like, you're not going in, you don't want them to feel like you're an individual that's just trying to get a 50% discount for them. Like, you
Yep.
need to be able to go in and say, look, this is a business that I run. This is how my business runs. This is what I can offer you. This is when I can pay you. And you want them to understand the factual appeal of it, but you don't want to make them feel like they're just dealing with some corporate entity. And that's where the stories come in, right? If you can have that emotional appeal, that emotional connection to the land that they own, your ability to convert that deal goes up exponentially because you're making a personal connection.
Well, always, 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 right? And I think it depends on the price point of your property and where it is, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff that you can do, and you can send letters, for a 10 acre in Ely, Nevada. Like, no big deal. Like, there's no personal,
Sure.
loss there. There's no, you know what I'm saying? Versus
Yeah.
something that's going to be a higher quality product, that's going to be, that maybe it's a multi-generational place, things like this. I think it depends on where you're
Yeah.
at and how that goes. But yes, obviously, the more affordable you can make it in the process, that you can make it easier for them, or on the buy side, easier, and then they believe in what you're doing, right? Right now, we're working on multiple joint venture deals with landowners right now that they missed the boat on 2022, 2021, 2022, and they're finally coming to the realization that they're not going to get their number unless they have some way to add value to that. So we're coming up with all the value and cash and things like this to improve their properties, and everyone wins. So
Really?
yeah, man. We could go on forever and ever on that stuff. But yeah,
Well, no,
obviously,
that's it. Sorry to interrupt. Like, it's just
yeah,
really interesting because on the distressed property side, people that are buying single family homes, flipping those, a big trend in the last couple of years has been novations, where they're
yep,
essentially paying to do upgrades to the house, get
yep.
the owner a higher value in the end. And I've always been curious about the potential for novations in the land space. So it's interesting that you're able to do that, especially with those that have been kind of on your follow-up list for a while and they're just still not quite there. To be able
Yep.
to offer them that solution down the line a little bit, I think is a really, really great strategy.
No, it absolutely is, and we structure it a little bit differently, in how we go into that. But like, yeah, I think there's an unbelievable opportunity. Obviously, depends on where you're at, in the world. Like, I wouldn't spend $1 million to develop a piece of dirt that's out in the middle of BFE, right? Like, let's be smart about it. Let's make sure that the market's there, because you're still going to have time. And the thing is now you've got a partner in the deal. And you know what partners want? They want their money yesterday, even though they said they are not in a hurry, right? And so that I'm being honest, right? And so that's what we do on our side too, is we're like, hey, we will also do a first right of refusal or an option price at this price. That's kind of a no-brainer for us. That would still get them their money, right? And so let's just say you got $1 million property. It's going to be worth $3 million, and it's going to take you a year. You're going to spend $500,000 onto it. You got to jump through all the hoops, work with the county, work with the city, whatever that is to add value to it. There would be a price where we would be like, okay, now we'll buy it at 1.3 or 1.5 or whatever that is. So I mean, they're still going to make more money, but they gave us the time in order to get that done on that, right? The big deal with this is to make sure that you've got yourself set up in a situation. If you are going to put that money, and this is the big deal with novations on single family homes, which, they may be $30,000-$40,000 into it. We may be $400,000 into it on CapEx, right? I don't want them to be able to have any kind of opportunity to say, no, actually, just kidding. We don't want to sell it. And I'm just, you know what I mean? Like there is an opportunity there because now they know that their property's worth $2 million thanks to your $400,000, right? Yeah. And so that's where on what we do is a little bit different. And so we're always on the deed, right? We're always on the new entity that we put together with the landowner. That's that way we CYA on that stuff. That I don't, it's just when you say, but the mechanics or the thought on the novation side is absolutely, I think it's great because it's a win-win-win all the way across the board.
So I want to kind of merge a couple things that we just talked about for anybody listening that is maybe newer to real estate investment and kind of listening on one hand about, 5 minutes ago, we were talking about the fact that you don't need anyone on your team. You can send out a bunch of text messages, send out some direct mail, field those 100 conversations, convert one deal, make 50 grand, have some cash flow, take a deep breath, rinse and repeat, right? And just keep running this process. Yep. And then on the other side, we're talking about $400,000 investment in essentially land novations where you have to understand, zoning and taxation and all of these other things, right? Yep. So I don't want people to think going in like you have to be an expert in all things, again, like zoning, tax regulations, everything. You don't have to be a concentrated market real estate expert in the area that you want to invest in, nor do you need to be like some sales and marketing whiz in the beginning. Even though you're starting a business, you got to think of it kind of like starting a job, right? Whereas like if I wanted to hire someone at Launch Control, I don't expect them to be a text marketing expert, subject matter expert, and a real estate investment expert. There's like a handful of those people in the whole world. I don't expect that. I expect you to start at the company and learn the ropes as you go along. As long as you have the basic skill set needed, everything else is a learning process. And a year in, 2 years in, you're going to be talking about real estate investment and text marketing like you've been doing this your whole damn life, right? And the same thing applies for the land business. Like you just got to get those deals coming in, take a deep breath, and just kind of flow with the process. And again, like 2 years in, you're going to hopefully have built up quite a bit of capital, but also a lot of knowledge about how this business works and what you can do, and just by going through the process of doing it,
Yes, build your war chest for sure, right? Just focus on one thing, do those flips or whatever that is that you decide to do those flips, find those below market value properties. It is good. I still think everyone should get the real estate license just in case, especially if you're going to market, right? If you're going to market a ton, an ability to either refer or list properties is a great way to add a bunch of value in a hurry, right? But especially if you got a job, you got one way or other, focus on finding good deals, focus on getting it done in one market, learn that market well, focus on that, and don't look up for 12 months. And when you've got a year and a half, of runway in the bank, then quit your job. And then that allows you the time to learn all this stuff and to talk to all this. And when it comes to like development, to be honest with you, there's not a whole lot of time that's actually involved as far as what you can do. Okay. As you're a real estate developer, you are a GM. You're a general manager or a general contractor. You don't have it. You don't have the stamps for the plats. You don't have the equipment for the roads. You don't have the bonding for any of that stuff. You especially have no power when it comes to running power, right? Like that's all done by the power companies themselves. So you literally have no idea. You can't throw the football. You can't block. You can't catch it. You can't do any of that stuff.
Right.
But you can put the team together that makes sense, right? That's the cool thing.
So with that,
it's a high risk, high reward. But to be honest with you, it's just putting the right pieces together in a project that makes sense financially, right? And so on the development end, this is something that I've learned is like, bro, lean on your quarterback. Lean on, if your surveying and engineering firm knows the county very well, has gone through it, and they're going to charge you an extra 10% on top of where they normally charge in order for them to work it through the county. You say, I'll give you 15%. You say, yes, sir. I appreciate your help. This sounds amazing. I'll make sure that the money's in your account. Like that's the cool thing about that. It does take, in my opinion, to be good at that, you've got to be able to set up the meetings and set up the times and the schedules and things like this that fit them. And then really the only way that you can do that is you either got a crazy open sales job schedule or you work for yourself. And you only get there by having enough money in the bank to carry you until you get those big projects done.
Well, it's a good point you brought up too, is everyone listening, like, don't be preoccupied with keeping the whole damn pie. Occasionally you're going to have to give away pieces of it, and for long-term success.
Yep. Never be greedy. Never be greedy. And the cool thing is when you're not greedy, people, and I don't say greedy because here's the thing about it. It's not greed. It's fear. You're afraid that another one's not going to come.
Excellent point. Yeah.
It has nothing to do. And we're all that way, right? Like as far as I mean, especially if we all grew up, middle class or lower middle class or what, one way or other, we all have our own box of chocolate when it comes to money and scarcity and all this other stuff. But if you realize like the real money in the world, and how much money is actually out there and all that, even though you might not have it, is there's no lack of cash. There's no lack of opportunities. And here's another thing. Always, always, always be marketing. Always, always, always be filling that pipeline, because you'll find out that a fantastic deal comes, depending on how much marketing you're doing, a fantastic deal will happen about once a month. If you're filling that pipe, you know what I mean? And then the cool thing with that, the worst thing you can do is you market, you spend all your money, you lock up all your money, it takes you a while to sell it, you turn off all your other marketing, your pipe goes dry because you're like, I don't have any money to do it, right? This is where you do good marketing, you find good deals, the money will come, right? You got to find money. And here's another thing. If you got to split it 50-50 with someone else, you freaking do it. In the first couple of years, you do it, you move on, you find another deal. The cool thing with that is when you realize, hey, as long as I keep the marketing turned on, I'm not going to run out of opportunities to make money. And once you realize that, and whether that is calling on-market deals, whether that's doing launch control, whether that's sending smoke signals, whatever the hell the newest doodad is, right? Cold calling, whatever that is, as long as you're doing that and you continue to fill that pipeline, then you don't buy bad deals and you realize, hey, there's always going to be another one.
Yeah, it's exactly why I brought up Launch Control's done for you service, Launch Leads, earlier, because of that exact equation, right? Like especially if you're running a one-man shop and you're doing the transaction coordination and dispo side and all of that yourself, it takes time, right? Like every little task in the business takes time. And if you've got a deal and you see the profit coming from that deal and your brain focus is obviously on netting that money, it's really easy to kind of turn off your focus on marketing, which might take a few hours a week. If you're cold calling and texting, especially, might take a few hours a week to really keep that pipeline full. So if you can
how does that work? I've never even heard of this. I'm actually interested in it. Like, so how does that work? You just pay a flat fee, or you pay a certain fee, or how does that work?
Yeah, so you pay for the subscription, and then the service is a separate fee on top of that, and it's affordable. So at the lightest package that we have, it's less than $1,000 for the month to run everything for you, and for like the middle package, it's a little under 1,500. But the way that it works is basically you just give us the data that you want to target plus a little bit of strategy, right? So like
Yep.
I want to segment this into out-of-state owners who own land in Texas, or I want to separate this into people that I know are over the age of 55, and I want to take a slightly different approach. Give us a little bit of strategy with the data, and the team will just upload that data into the system, match it with content, start generating conversations, and then anybody that's ready to have a conversation, kind of think of it as a lead intake team. They're going to take that and just hand off that warm lead. But the idea is with this, we want to do it quickly, so we try to get the investors to call within like 5-10 minutes, so
Yep.
it feels just like an in-team handoff. And
Yep.
so the only thing that you're doing is basically you're acquiring data, letting our team do everything else, and then you're picking up the discovery calls with the owner. So in simplest fashion, it takes an outbound marketing process and just makes it inbound leads easy.
No, yeah, I may have to talk to you about that, because especially even on the listing side, right? Like we've got our brokerage and things like this, to be able to mix and match some of that would be, because I've never messed with text marketing at all, and
Yeah.
that would be that could be something pretty interesting.
Yeah, and you can definitely make money off of it on the broker side as well, where you can curate those relationships. And this is something that we talk about on the show quite a bit. Is and I think this is kind of goes into like advanced investing a little bit, is reverse engineering. So exactly what people are going to buy. What the realtors that you're working with are looking to sell, like what they want to add to their portfolio, and then you're going out and finding that. Right. So you're removing all of
Yeah.
the question marks and the anxiety from the back end, because going in that all you're doing is sourcing a needed commodity and then selling it.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, and even like this, if I give you a certain number or a certain amount that we're looking for with these, and I can pull all that data and say, hey, these would be interesting to me, even as a, a novation, a joint venture deal, whatever that is,
Yeah.
that's a very open deal there, where you can say, hey, anyway. But yeah, that's cool. That's really neat to be able to do that. And obviously $1,500 or $2,000 or whatever the heck that is, it's it's more than some people's mortgage, but your mortgage can't make you 6 figures a month eventually either. So yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Exactly. All right. Well,
Absolutely.
look, I mean, you and I started this conversation, well, not this conversation, just pre-show, talking about, kind of the importance of using podcasts as a way to educate and give people some like creative ideas and how to run their real estate investing businesses or even get them off the ground. So let's take just a minute. I'd love to kind of hear a little bit about the Dirt Road to Wealth, how you started it, why you started it, all that.
Man, COVID, right? That's why I started it, right? Like that, just
Yeah.
and we were not shut down nearly like other people were, right? And
Yeah.
so one of some of my friends with Casual Fridays REI, which is Justin Sleva and Adam Southey, they had
Yeah.
one for a year and a half or 2 years or one way or other. And so I was like, man, how do I do one of these? And he sent me some stuff. And so I was like, okay. And so, we've done several. I haven't done as many here in the last year or so, just because, to be honest with you, I've done a pretty crappy job as far as like on the land being so niche down. There's only so much that you can talk about, right? Like, I would really like to get in touch and have more like complete newbies on and talk to them as far as doing almost like a coaching deal, right? Where there's an hour-long coaching class or whatever that is, and to go through that. And there, because everyone asks the same questions, just a little differently in a
Yeah.
different manner. And so like that's something that I've kind of put thought about one way or the other. But really what it is I
All
got
right,
so
hang on
tired of all
real
the.
quick, Trevor. Time
Go
out
ahead.
real quick. All right.
Yep.
So for everyone listening, both Trevor and I want to interview people on our podcasts that are not multimillionaires. We want to talk to people that are at the very beginning stages of investing, the middle stages of investing. Because listen, for you guys, all of you listeners, if any challenges you're having, any struggles you're having that Trevor and I can kind of help you get past or connect you to the right people, if you are having those challenges, 1,000 other people are having those challenges, and we want to help you solve them. But we can only do that if you raise your hand and say, sure, put me on the hot seat, let's talk. So we're gonna have links below in this episode to connect with us for Deal Nation to get signed up, or to connect with the Dirt Road to Wealth to get signed up. But come to us, let's talk, let's chat about it. Because I struggle with the same thing. Like I would love to interview a lot more people that are just going through it, so we can talk about going through it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but you know that's where I really enjoy, right? Like talking about like when you've learned all your own lessons, and I'm sure this is true with any profession, you kind of enjoy sharing them, right? Some of those lessons and what you've gone through and all that, and so that usually, we like to help as far as that's concerned. But like the big deal with me when it came to the is I just got so tired of the same old. Like all the glitzy, ads and fluff and BS. And so like my whole podcast, I don't edit it. I don't do anything. Like this is just as real gets. And that's just kind of the human being I am, to be honest with you. I've had lots and lots of people ask to like sponsor my podcast and do everything else like that. I just don't do any of that. If you want real life headaches and things like this, like I don't have anything to sell, like that was my deal. Is I just got so tired of listening. And it's not just real estate or land or whatever. It's just like all these different podcasts that I listen to, whether that's hunting and fishing or fitness or other business stuff. You're just like, if I have to get another sponsor break, listen to this stuff, I'm gonna just turn you off and you know what I mean, not follow you anymore one way or other. And so that's just kind of what I like doing, and I'm much better at long form. Hear us discussing as normal human beings, and I don't think I've ever taken a selfie in my life. And so like when it comes to like building brand and things like this on whether that's social media or one way or other, I don't do well in that. And so that's where this open long form kind of stuff works much better for me.
I've taken a few selfies, but I've absolutely never gotten it right.
I would have to find my best side, as my wife says, but I don't have either one. So, and that's what a lot of people say.
Man, I'm always looking up at the sky for some reason.
I got a face for radio, so yeah, that's why I do podcasts.
Right. Well, listen, man, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. We're gonna have links below to both Go West Lands and the podcast, of course. Anything else anything else you want to drive traffic to or let people know about, or we just want to get them over to the podcast?
Yeah, just shoot me. Go to Go West Lands. That's just kind of our brokerage site and everything. But if you're interested in doing these kind of deals, or if you got some money sitting around in a retirement account or things like that, want to do some development side, more than willing to talk to you. And my cell phone number is 940-736-8797. And feel free to get up. I might not be able to answer every time, but send me a text or shoot me a call, and we'll talk about it.
Okay, love it. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you.
All right. Talk soon.